Howdy, I'm Tyler,
I'm Justin.
and this is Newbies to Movies, a new podcast that we're starting that is basically to get us to be watching new movies that we wouldn't watch unless we actually put the effort towards going to go watch it. So really how the podcast looks is each week we look over a certain topic or director or actor, and then from there we choose a movie for each other to watch that we have never seen before, and then rate it and then talk about it. And then it can include different rankings if we've watched multiple movies from this person, or if we've seen multiple movies during that topic and talk about it that we want to shout out within that. For this first week, we are going over Martin Scorsese, but first we'll introduce ourselves a little bit. Justin, if you want to start.
Yeah, my name's Justin. I currently work in finance, and me and Tyler, we oftentimes just talk about movies that we like watching, and we're just trying to dive in a little deeper than the surface level. So I'm excited to start doing this, and I want to learn more.
Yeah, my name's Tyler. I work in the Air Force, and yeah, we just like what Justin just said. We talk about movies a lot, and seeing how progressive we can get with talking about them rather than just a surface level of, oh yeah, that movie was good. Rather getting into like each details about like specific categories of why we think it's good and specific things that we want to shout out within the movies. So starting off with Martin Scorsese. To be quite upfront, we haven't watched probably as many movies about him that we probably should have. Considering he's like one of the goats, and he's the most nominated Best Director of a living director currently, which is really cool. Just to shout out some movies by him is Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, The King of Comedy, The Color of Money, Goodfellas, Casino, Gangs of New York, The Departed, Shutter Island, Wolf of Wall Street, Irishman, and Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, and we were I was kind of shocked that he only had one Oscar nomination for Best Director. Or sorry, he 10 Oscar nominations for Best Director, only one win. I was kind of shocked to see that, especially seeing all the films in a list. It's like I've heard of all of these before, and I've heard a lot of people talk good things about them.
Yeah, for sure. I'm also surprised that he's only won one. That's definitely up to debate for some of them of why he didn't win, but he also works with some of the best actors currently and in the past. Like Robert De Niro is a common one. Leonardo DiCaprio seems to be in like every movie past like 2000. He's in it with him, so that's also something cool.
So
Um,
what we did was we challenged each other to pick a movie for the other person that the other person hadn't seen. I've seen a lot less than Tyler, but somehow Tyler hasn't seen Goodfellas yet. So I had him watch that, and he chose The Departed for me, which I hadn't seen until this week. So
yeah, so we'll start off with just talking about the Goodfellas, which I was challenged to watch that. I've always wanted to. Really never got a chance to, and then went over it. Surprised I never did when I was young because my parents would always watch like what mob movies, but I guess they just never really got around to Goodfellas. Which, looking at it, probably better for me not to watch at a young age, the type of movie that Goodfellas is. Um, but if you listen to any other type of podcast or any other type of movie reviews, everyone refers to Goodfellas as probably like one of his best works. Um, yeah, so it's just a basic overview of what Goodfellas is about. It's based on a true story of about a guy that grew up with the mob, and then throughout that he got in a really sticky situation, and then had to get out of it in a certain way. And it's really interesting storytelling. And if you watch some of his other movies, especially Scorsese later on, you can see how that really like bases the framework of how he does other movies.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah. So I'll start off with my overall rating for Goodfellas, which is a 78.5. This is more like a non-American way of rating. Is how we like to refer to it as of like, so like a five is just being like mid, like nothing
Yep,
really great about it, nothing really bad about it. While like 10 is like exceptional, like comparing it to
perfect.
some best things Yeah, like almost perfect. Um, so that's why it's a little bit harsher rating than expected. On a more American rating, I would rate it more like a 90.
Yeah,
Like definitely
no,
an A
that's
movie. Yeah.
hmm
So just starting off with the plot, I gave it a 9 out of 10, mainly because I think the main events are clear, while the climax itself happens at two separate points. I see a climax happening, and then you could just see how he's obsessed with the feeling of being successful, committing crime, and just pure greed. And then once it gets a little too much and it goes a little too far, you can just see it falling directly for him. You got anything to add for that?
yes.
What'd you get for it?
I I think I agree. I think that's also shown in his cocaine addiction as well.
Yeah.
You start seeing him getting very jumpy, very scared about every little thing, and I think that's kind of the on the downward spiral.
Yeah. Now you could definitely see also like I think it's like the last 10 minutes of the movie, he straight up just says once he's like back in a normal life or like not normal for him, but normal for pretty much everyone else, is that he's like, oh, I just miss the action. He doesn't
Hmm
miss he doesn't miss like the evil parts of it. He just misses doing something and he doesn't like just a normal life, which it shows because he ends up getting arrested later on and having to get taken out of witness protection program. But yeah.
I think the other thing too is that's like a big touching point for a people for the audience a lot of times. There's a lot of people who don't want to live this normal life stuck in their 9 to 5 in their neighborhood. Like some people would rather live that, crime life, jumping around, having fun, the adventure, the action for 10 years than a whole life stuck in what they would refer to as jail anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
That pulls the
what I'm
string.
guessing. After like, I think it was after 6 years of him living a normal life, he ended up committing a crime to try to sell drugs. And so it was kind of like what I guess is him as like a human was just like, I don't care anymore. It's worth it. Just feeling the action. Um, yeah. For characters, which is the next topic that we rated, I gave that a 9 out of 10 as well, mainly because I think Tommy and Conway, like those two characters itself, like really were just so vibrant. And then I could see how in any other mob movie I've seen before or any crime movie, they try to model after that. And that's
Yeah.
why it's such a high ranking.
No, I agree. They were classic mob boss guys.
Yeah. And like a little like hot-headed, like something I'll keep talking about how is Tommy DeVito, Joe Pesci's character, is like the highlight of the movie. Like
Yeah.
he
He's
like
dark.
finds everyone else in that movie, which just makes sense of why he won the Oscar for best supporting actor that year. But yeah, his character itself, and then you can see how they just kind of model it after because he's like kind of a funny guy, but then also somebody you don't want to laugh at actually. Because
Like the reoccurring saying that they're busting his balls,
yeah,
and he once it would happen to him, you did not know what was going to happen.
yeah.
He was smiling, but you did not know.
Mhm.
What next?
Like the spider scene where he's right after like the second time after he like tells him to fuck off, and
Yeah.
then and then he's like, oh, you want to tell me that? And then he just shoots him, and then Henry Hill's face is literally just like, what?
It was he was an eerie character because you did not ever know what was going through that head.
hmm No, yeah, it was definitely interesting to see it progress because you could see like how younger he was more hot-headed, but then like as he got older, he just didn't. He would just thought he felt he had more power to just actually just kill people.
It corrupts you. I mean, I
Yeah,
could imagine being in that spot. It would just take you over from the inside out.
yeah. And something to bring back to the plot was, I think the moment that they killed the untouchable guy, just for like once he got back in the city, and then he was giving them shit on all that. I think that was also like one of the climax points. You could
Definitely.
see Henry's face kind of like turn after that. He was like, "Oh, they knew that he fucked up."
Yeah, it's bad now. It's all downhill.
And then next was cinematography. I gave that a personal like 4 out of 10. Even for the timing itself, which I understand like the camera work and all that won't be as well. I just feel like looking back at movies in the 90s and even 80s, um, obviously I don't think cinematography was like their main point for it, but I definitely think
Yeah.
not nothing too special, but nothing too bad.
Yeah, it makes sense. I didn't see anything that, blew me away. It was some good shots.
Yeah,
But that's pretty much it.
yeah. Now dialogue, I gave that a 9.8 out of 10, almost perfect because something I think Scorsese does really well is he does these natural conversations that are also just outlandish in the way that we would never understand it, but it would make sense for them in their life to have.
Exactly. And they used a lot of the, same terms over and over. Goodfellas, wise guys,
Yeah,
busting the balls. You could tell it made sense on a scene to scene basis. It never felt like these weren't the same guys we were talking to the whole movie. It was always the same mood, the same dialogue, the same everything.
yeah. And talking to like people like my parents' generation, a lot of at least my parents, they like sometimes bring up those random words like wise guys, like like all those kind of stuff, like a Goodfellas, like so it's. I feel like if that dialogue is brought up even like this far and it affects that kind of a generation, it's probably pretty darn good. And then the next category we went into was movie set design. I gave that like a 7 out of 10. I think it was slightly above average for it. Like even though it was set 10 to 20 years prior to like when the movie was actually set in place
Yeah,
or came out, I feel like it was nothing too crazy, but like still very realistic to for what it was.
I agree. I mean, it was a good city building. I always felt like I knew where everybody was at. The sets themselves, they felt like they changed enough to where I wasn't confused on where everybody was at.
Mhm.
It was good.
Yeah. I think one of the things to call out of why it isn't like higher was probably like the jail scene itself.
Hmm.
How they were just in that one, but they didn't go outside of that, which for the movie itself probably works. But if you want to go like a little extra with the movie set design, probably.
No, that makes sense. I mean, who knows what was involved with that too? Could be cost, could be just, you
Yeah.
know, ability to get to a prison to film. But
Yeah.
I know what you mean. They were just kind of stuck in that one room, although it was a big room and they were kind of trying to show that.
Yeah.
It would still be cool to show the rest of the jailmates and everything like that a little more.
Um, and then the next one was acting. For me, I gave it a 8 out of 10. Again, I think Joe Pesci was like clearly the shout out in it. And then everything else I think was just above average acting wise. I don't think anything was too crazy good or like and or mid. I think it's just like right in that like above average category for me
Yeah.
acting wise. Now
I
Joe
think
Pesci
this
himself, I think was 10 out of 10, but
I think from what I saw at least, De Niro was really good, but it felt like maybe he was just being overshadowed by Joe Pesci the whole beginning. And then I don't want to say, yeah, Joe Pesci's out of the mix, and then Robert De Niro kind of took off there at the end. Like it felt like, oh, okay, this turned into his movie all of a sudden.
mhm. Yeah,
Thing
I
I
think the
noticed.
reason why I didn't rate it as high was because I think Ray Liotta's kind of character, Henry Hill, like I think he was overshadowed and like usually a main character being overshadowed kind of shows like a not weakness, but like a little like so like a lower
It's a
point.
negative thing, yeah,
Because usually you want the main character to be like the best actor, like just the
yeah,
best acting
exactly,
performance for itself. But so he still did great in my opinion, just not like exceptional.
yeah,
And then for directing, I gave it, which directing, we kind of talked about it off the podcast, was more so like the flow, how Scorsese himself decided to like direct it and not having any too many low points in it and having it always progress. For me, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Again, to where I think it's above average. I just don't think it's the best way he's directed that I've seen.
yeah.
Um, like especially the flow. Like there's some points into it where I'm like, I don't really get why he's deciding to go like or adding some parts into it. But what do you think?
I agree. I at one point I was sitting there and I was like, I feel like this movie's been going on for 2 hours and I'm 45 minutes in and I
Yeah,
don't know where it's going at this point. Like I don't know what's coming next, which is good sometimes, but I wasn't on the edge of my seat to know what's coming next. It was like I was just sitting there. I got all the backstory and everything. And then now what?
exactly. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think you could see some of his later movies that he kind of fixes some of those points, but then some of them seem to drag on a little bit further, which we can get into a little bit later.
Yeah.
Uh, Now for soundtrack, I think I gave it a 9.2 out of 10, very specific because I don't think it was like into that higher echelon of like 9.5 or higher, but I still think it was like very, very unique and good soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because I can hear like how that same type of music is now used into mob type of shows and movies today. Just like,
Yeah. Yeah. I heard Sunshine of Your Love by Cream come on at one point, and I
yeah.
sat up in my chair and I was like, it just sounded like the whole movie got way louder all of a sudden. I don't know, maybe it was the TV I was watching it on,
Yeah.
but it felt like I don't remember what part that was. I think that was when they killed the untouchable in the bar or something like that, or right after they did it. And I was like, whoa. I sat up. I was like, that was signifying like a turning point or something
Hmm.
like that
No,
because
I
it
definitely
sounded
think it
louder.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that again, like having those key points, because even when he's on that chase scene, um,
Hmm.
which it's wondering or not if he's actually being chased by a helicopter because he's on drugs, because and instead his babysitter, who he decides to smuggle for him, another really bad choice, really bad decision making there. Um, the music also heightens up throughout that and like paces at the beat of like his heart. I feel like because like he's just on cocaine, so he's just like his heart's just beating really hard, but like the music's also beating with it.
Yeah. No, that's good because it makes the audience also feel that intensity.
Hmm. Now, yeah, for sure. And then
I don't know an aside subject, but you brought up the babysitter. I thought she was a rat at first. I thought
yeah,
she was selling them out. Maybe she was, and we just never got there. But at first, it seemed like that.
I feel like her as a character itself was just more so a sign of like how he was just so he was going beyond like what he was capable of and just trusting somebody that he had no reason to trust, like absolutely no reason. And then it turned to be his downfall, which makes sense. I mean,
It was the same with the girl at the crack house.
yeah,
Like you just definitely shouldn't be trusting a coke addict to do your coke.
yeah, no, yeah. You can see where it lapsed in judgment because based off of like what he grew up with the mob, they had like more strict rules, and the reason why um, what seemed like a more father figure than his actual father, Paul, of
Hmm.
why he told him to get out of that after prison, and then he didn't listen, and then seemed to
He
be a
knew what was best for
downfall.
him.
Yeah, which Paul himself, it seemed to be a really downfall of himself of being so trusting to Henry and so loving of him he probably looked at him as like a son too. Which in reality, I think any other person that he didn't look like at that, he probably would have killed already.
Yeah, no,
So
definitely.
you can see how lapse of judgment from both of them just for greed and then love from Paul himself.
Yep.
Now, the theme, which is just like the overall concept of the movie, like what it's really about, I gave it out like a 10 out of 10, mainly because I think every other mob movie after this really models after Goodfellas and like uses it as inspiration. Just like how The Godfather and Goodfellas, I think, are looked at equally when people are trying to make a mob crime kind of movie.
Everybody always talks about those two.
Yeah. And they really, I couldn't imagine giving it any lower score than 10 out of 10 just because of how much framework it's used for other movies,
Yeah.
which you see
No,
in
I
his
definitely
later
agree.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still yet to watch The Godfather, but those two are the ones everyone always brings up and the stereotypical, Italian mob guy. It's
Yeah,
those two that they're looking at.
yeah, and then yeah, because then you can see an Irishman how it's really modeled after that as well, and then it's just interesting storytelling wise of it. And then lastly, the last thing was editing. I gave it a 5 out of 10, mainly because I just think it did what it did. There wasn't anything crazy. Again, like talking about some low points that it could have probably either like snipped a little bit out of, or some parts where you're like, I don't really see the point.
Hmm.
But yeah,
So what was your overall score you said?
uh, 78.5.
78.5. Okay. We're going two decimal places. All right. So overall, you thought this was a really good movie.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good movie. I could see why. Like on Letterbox, I think it's like a 4.5 out of 10 or out of 5, which is crazy score on Letterbox. And then everyone refers to it as like the best movie in 1990 and all that stuff, and I can see why.
Yeah. Let's see. It's got a 92 out of 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. Oh, sorry, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, 8.7 on IMDb, and 92 out of 100 on Metacritic. So yeah, pretty good scores all around. I mean, you know, typically they translate over from each website about the same, but
Hmm.
especially being out this long too, having and keeping good reviews like that is pretty good.
Yeah, no, for sure.
All right, so I watched The Departed this week. Um, I'm gonna save my overall score for the end, um, and I'll just go through each category the same way you did. The Departed is a crime story about two cops. It follows Billy Costigan, that's Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and Colin Sullivan, which is Matt Damon's character. One of them is working for the mob and is a cop, so he's a informant on the inside, basically for the mob. And then the other way around, Billy Costigan is an undercover cop working for that same mob, and the same mob boss, Frank Costello, is Jack Nicholson's character. Um, so for the plot, I did a 9. I thought that the duality of man proposed with both Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon was really interesting. You know how one man can do both evil and good in the world, and I think they both embodied that perfectly. It was a cat and mouse kind of movie. You're constantly on the edge of your seat, getting chasing these guys around, trying to figure out what's going on. If anybody's going to get caught was like one of the biggest points in the movie. They were going after each other and they didn't even know who each other was.
Yeah,
Um, and it also explores identity a lot. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio throughout the whole movie couldn't tell if what he was doing was right or wrong. Um, and actually, I'll just take that right into characters. I had put a 7 for them. Um, I had my main four characters that I thought were exceptional. And then
hmm,
after that, I felt like that was kind of it. Every other character felt a little one-dimensional, but I know that's just because there was a lot going on. It wasn't necessarily because of the acting or anything like that. It was just because the focus was on the main four. One I really liked, but I don't know if anybody else talks about. So obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio's character Billy Costigan, he was a very sensitive guy and he felt trapped.
yeah,
And he felt like he was often walking the line of morality. He didn't know if what he was doing was right. He didn't know if he could kill somebody. And he didn't know, he felt lost as a person. He didn't know who he truly was anymore. Colin Sullivan, Matt Damon's character, he was like a deception artist, but he was very ambitious. I said here in my notes that he flew too close to the sun.
hmm,
He was really trying to dive into that. Frank Costello was Jack Nicholson's character. I mean, just scary as anything. He
yeah.
was an power hungry egomaniac, groomed kids to, join him. And
Mhm.
it was kind of like you were talking about with Joe Pesci's character. I had no idea what he was going to do at any given moment.
No, yeah. Um, I think the characters are great, but like you said, like other than like I would say four, they're very one dimensional. Now, one-dimensional character that you may shout out that I don't, I think it's great that he's one-dimensional is Sergeant Dingham, which is
Yeah.
Wahlberg's character. Like he
Boy,
maybe like looks like he's one-dimensional and he's just like a hothead guy, but holy crap, I think this like he's such an interesting character and like he just Mark Wahlberg kills it. And yeah,
the whole movie, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this guy might be undercover too. Like he might be working for the mob. This guy might be. And I was like, with him, I don't feel it. Like he's straight up just like,
oh yeah, he's like a true
yeah, blue
like
blood.
yeah, he was like yeah, I'm American and I don't fuck with the mob. And you could be like, yep, I believe that.
He
There's
was
nothing to go.
hardcore.
Yeah.
He was awesome. For cinematography, I gave it a 7. I said sometimes there were some really hard and aggressive visual cuts, which gave the audience eerie feeling during tense scenes. I think about the scene with Billy and Frank when they're in the restaurant and they're
Hmm.
sitting at the table and he's trying to find the rat. Obviously, Billy is the rat, but he's trying to get him off his back. He doesn't want to get killed.
Yeah.
Uh, it was very hard camera cuts, which gives the audience the feeling of like yikes, just
Yeah.
kind of subconsciously. It's not like a you know hard thing, but um, it made the plot and the viewership feel really messy, which was a good thing.
Hmm.
Uh, I also was gonna bring this up to you. I've seen like this theory going around that if a character had an X go over their face, like an actor's face in the movie, it signified that the character might die. That's
Really?
kind of interesting if that was on purpose.
Yeah. Interesting.
Seen that?
No, I haven't seen anything about that,
I've
but
seen there's like a YouTube theory video, but basically anytime an X crossed over a character in a movie, they were about to die.
oh wow.
The only one that was different was Frank in the beginning of the movie. He's walking in like the mechanic shop or something, and the X crosses over him. It doesn't happen like close to his death, but
Yeah.
that might signify that, he was like already a dead man and he knew it.
Yeah.
Um, who knows? But I just thought it was interesting. You have to read about it.
Yeah. No, I think the cinematography is definitely improved. Like you could see from Goodfellas to this, especially with like the cuts into it, like what you were talking about, like adding an intensity within the camera rather than just in Goodfellas, it doesn't really do that as much. So
Mm.
it's cool to see how he like improved specifically within that film from film to film of like being able to cut like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it a lot. For dialogue, I gave it an 8. I thought it was a very quotable movie. Dialogue felt clean and unforced. I didn't feel like any quotes were forced in, but some really good ones came out of it. I felt like there was often hidden meanings involved with some of the dialogue, especially, the whole cat and mouse game. When people were talking to other people, it felt like, okay, this is weird. Like, for instance, when Colin Sullivan, I think he was talking to his new unit that he put together at
Yeah.
the police, and he was talking about a rat being potentially in their group.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it at the time, but like on upon a second rewatch, I didn't rewatch it, but like going back and watching some scenes, the other guy, I can't think of his name. He was also,
He was the other rat, right?
yeah, he was the other rat.
Yeah.
His face kind of lit up when he said that, and
Yeah.
I never picked up on that before, but I found that interesting. My favorite line was Jack Nicholson's line at the beginning. She felt funny when he shot her in the head,
Yeah.
and the other guy said, "You need to get some help." It
Yeah.
kind of just set the tone for how like crazy he is, and
Mhm.
nothing was over the top for him. Like he would just do anything.
Yeah.
And I also heard that was improvised by Nicholson, which just props to him because
Mhm.
I think he is crazy.
Yeah. This was definitely like one of his last like movies you could tell where I think reading more into the story was Scorsese kind of just let him do his thing
Yeah,
um, and really just fly off the walls with what he wanted to with the character. Uh,
yeah.
but yeah,
With a resume like that, how do you not let
yeah,
him?
like a specific dialogue part, I think that was really funny, but also just crazy scene when he has like the hand out of the bag and then he's just talking like a normal conversation while DiCaprio's character is just like he's just like you can just tell he's just like what the hell is wrong with this guy.
No, yeah, I think that was probably one of my favorite characters in that movie, but especially because of his dialogue.
Yeah. No, yeah.
For set design, I gave it a 7. I think it was a great job at displaying the different tonality between Costigan and Sullivan.
Mhm.
Anytime Costigan's in a scene, it's dark, it's eerie, it's often rundown buildings, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Sullivan's living in a nice apartment with the view, always bright. The police station was always bright, especially in his office. Um, and yeah,
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. And then also just seeing different, it's just like very realistic of like what it looks like.
yeah,
And then something else to bring up about I don't think we've talked about during the characters part was how much I do not like Sullivan like as a person. Like I just hate him the entire movie, which says like how good Matt Damon did um as like acting
I
for it.
feel like in a lot of movies, Matt Damon plays like a good guy. And
Yeah.
in this, I was just like, why do I not like him? But
Yeah.
it was, yeah, he was just playing a really bad person. And it felt
Yeah. Yeah.
seeing that.
Yeah.
Getting into that with acting, um, I gave it a 7 as well. Some actors, best roles. It was very intense yet often hidden, because everybody's hiding everything. So there was, like I said earlier, a lot of hidden meaning in these characters. But I felt as some of the side characters were one-dimensional, and in my notes I put in quotes Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
He's just kind of a jackass.
Yeah. Yeah, something about acting is I think those four main or like four of the bigger ones. So like Nicholson, um, Matt Damon, DiCaprio, and Mark Wahlberg. Like those acting performances were great. I think DiCaprio was kind of outshined a little bit, which I was surprised by because most movies he's like the
The
best
guy.
performance, but in this one I feel like he got outshined by the other three, which is unique for him as a I think an actor.
Yeah, just thinking now, like obviously Alec Baldwin was kind of one-dimensional, but again, you have these big main characters. It's kind of hard to fit in all those people.
Hmm.
Um, Also, I can't remember his name, but Dignam's partner, the older guy that
Oh yeah,
passed, he was kind of
Martin Sheen.
one-dimensional, but yeah, but it was important to Costigan mainly. That was like Costigan's father figure, if anything.
Yeah. Nah, I think Martin Sheen was like great in it, but then again, you just when you have some such great actors into it, they can just outshine even like good actors at that point. Um,
Covered up.
yeah.
And then for directing, I had given it a 7. Obviously, this is his Oscar-winning movie. Some would say due to just his history. That's what I've seen online. They're just saying the Oscars felt like they had to give him one finally.
Hmm.
But overall, it's a roller coaster of film, like many Scorsese movies.
Yeah.
Um, I did read that it was based off Internal Affairs. It's a Chinese movie by Andrew Lau and Alan Mack. Uh, it People were saying online that it's a very similar plot line. Some people were saying Internal Affairs was better, so I'd have to go back and watch that to give you my
Yeah.
opinion on that. But overall, the movie flows well. It Sometimes I felt like I would not me getting lost, but I was sitting there thinking the average viewer might get a little bit confused
Hmm.
um, with what's going on if they're not, hard locked to the screen and paying attention, which I know that's with any movie, but just connecting some things earlier on might help that out.
Yeah.
Not to dig too much into it overall, I think it was a great movie.
No, I think so too. I think it was very like fast paced. I don't think there was very many low points. The only low points was like the weird romance scenes, which we haven't really got into with the therapist. How she's like stuck in between the two characters, which I think it's an interesting character. I just
Yeah.
like I don't know. I think if there is one weakness, it is her as a character in the first place, because like a therapist getting with like one of her clients is always kind of problematic.
No, definitely.
Um,
Better yet, too.
yeah, yeah, it's
So,
it's something.
for the soundtrack, I gave it a 9. I really enjoyed the soundtracks, and I was often kind of, shocked sitting up in the edge of my seat for some of the song choices. I think it used the music to encapsulate the overall environment.
Hmm.
Obviously, shipping up to Boston was a good one. It's an
Yeah,
exceptional use of music in movies. Um, Specifically, that song, really loud, a lot of chaotic instruments, very aggressive, and I think that perfectly goes into the movie with what's going on.
yeah,
Everybody in the movie is super aggressive, loud, and trying to make a name for themselves. Well, it's also about Boston, so fits perfectly.
yeah, exactly.
Um, Speaking on the psychiatrist, the therapist, yeah, both. Uh, I wanted to bring up the "Comfortably Numb" being used by Pink Floyd. Um, I think it's showing in that scene where they're getting together, her and Costigan. It shows his trauma and numbness and the, illusion of a life that he lives. He doesn't know what's real, what's fake anymore.
Yeah,
And also, she had given him opiates to help with his pain. And I think both that and hooking up with her is kind of like just he's fine at that point with being numb to everything going on around him.
yeah. If the movie itself was like more dramatized, you could
Mhm.
see how he's such a tragic character. It really is. Like
Yeah.
he really just kind of set up to fail once he gets into it. Um, yeah, and then in a way where she is a strong character is that she kind of in another world they probably would like if they met in a different circumstance they probably would have ended up with each other because there's like you could just tell there was more connection with them than there was with Sullivan. Like her and Sullivan's connection was more surface level, while their connection was a lot deeper. It seemed
Yeah.
like,
I think that's shown too because there's never any scenes with her and Sullivan really close to each other besides like a hug and kiss here and there. It's
yeah,
never like any deeper than that. You never see any deep conversations between the two of them. It's just kind of surface level they're together.
yeah. It's just like constant like flirtiness to where like it seems like they're all it is just like they're just attracted to each other and they just flirt while like the
Yeah. They
Costigan
have,
he gets more deep level. Like,
yeah, they really feel like they understand each other.
hmm.
So for theme, I gave it an 8. I think there's lots of moral ambiguity in this movie, and corruption, obviously. And there's the constant playing of deception and identity, people trying to figure out who they are in this crazy mess of a fight, basically. And I think there's a lot of blurred lines between loyalty and betrayal. Um, I think Costigan kind of walks that line. He doesn't know if what he's doing is being loyal to the mob or if it's being betraying the mob. And same with the police department. He doesn't know what he's really allowed to do. He's watching people die and he's like kind of balancing all of that.
Yeah, I gave it a personal like 9, um,
Hmm.
just because I think it's a very cool like theme and concept for a movie itself that hasn't really been done as well since that I've seen.
And then for editing, I just gave it a 4. I think there was a few times where the visual effects didn't look so great. Specifically when you could tell they were in like a small area, but there was whether it was CGI or just visual effects in the background for like the larger landscape. It didn't look so great. Obviously, this movie's a little bit older, so you kind of expect that, but
Yeah,
it was fine. It never interrupted the movie or interrupted my train of thought. You could just tell it was there.
yeah, I agree. I gave it a 5 out of 10, so I think it was all right. There's nothing special.
And then so that brings my overall score to a 7.3 out of 10.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the movie, like you said, kind of like on a non-American grading scale. I really liked this movie a lot. It was like I said earlier, roller coaster.
Hmm.
Um, Overall, from what I've seen from Scorsese, one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I gave it a 7.8. I gave it like a barely slightly better score than Goodfellas, but I think that's more of like a growing up factor because this was like a movie that like my dad and I watched when I was like way younger. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like I don't know, I love this movie. This is like probably one of the first DVDs I ever bought. was like The Departed, because I really like the movie. I probably watch it close to 3 times a year because I just like the story itself, the characters, and it's just something easy to like watch for me. I think
Yeah.
I slightly like it better, just as like a personal factor. Movie wise, I think it's just like just on par as Goodfellas itself.
Yeah. I think like you said, I feel like, obviously I just watched it for the first time this week, but I feel like it is super rewatchable.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like I want to go back and rewatch it just to look out for subtle things from different characters to see if they're kind of hinting on towards anything. And when you do rewatch it again, look out for that X theory.
Yeah, no, yeah, it definitely will now. Surprised I never
Yeah.
think anything about it. Um, but yeah, so what was your score for Goodfellas again?
I didn't really like rate each individual category. I just did it for The Departed. But if I had to guess, it would imagine it's somewhere probably between 6.8 to 7 for me.
Okay,
I really did enjoy the movie. I think I like The Departed more though.
okay.
And that's nothing against that. Goodfellas at all. It's just, this movie, I think it had a little bit more, how do you say it? It's a little bit more actionable. Like I felt more interested the whole time where I was, telling you about Goodfellas. At some points it felt like I was kind of sitting there, not sure what's coming next, but I wasn't
Mhm.
excited for what's coming next either because I just didn't know what was happening yet.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I think that definitely says with our age of why we probably like The Departed more because I think if you
Yeah.
talk to a little older generation, like a little probably like 10 years older than us, they're all like, "Not Goodfellas." My parents' age, they'd probably be like, "Nope, Goodfellas." But next
Makes
we're gonna
sense.
get into like two movies that we've both seen of Martin Scorsese. Justin said before he hasn't seen a lot of his type of movies, but the two that we have seen, separate from what we've gone over, is Wolf of Wall Street and Shutter Island. Starting off with Wolf of Wall Street, again, you can see in the storytelling from Goodfellas and The Departed where he really likes from like a perspective and like jumping between characters. Um, you can see it really in Goodfellas how like the back talking in the background, like the narrator is himself. He's
Yeah.
also been Wolf of Wall Street. Um, yeah,
I noticed that between in Goodfellas with him and his wife.
yeah,
Those were the main two that were talking. There was really no other characters, and it was looking at the other characters from that point of view only.
hmm yeah. I could see the mirroring between Goodfellas and Wolf of Wall Street so much more after watching it, especially with like obviously the same type of characters, but very esque of like who the main character is of like Jonah Hill's character and then Joe Pesci's character. How they're both just like side, but they're just like just crazy people. they
They
that don't,
don't do the narrating in The Departed, but I would say the same with Frank Costello's character. We
yeah,
know what's going on in Sullivan and Costigan's head, but
yeah,
not Costello's.
yeah.
And so that would be that side character for me in that movie.
Hmm. Yeah. For something that I think the main character, like Will Wall Street, Jordan Belfair, like talking about how DiCaprio was kind of outshined, in my opinion, in The Departed and Wolf of Wall Street, like he is like
That's him.
that's
Yeah.
like he's by far the best. Still think he should have probably won an Oscar for it because he's just crazy in it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. And then Shutter Island, which you've recently seen it, right?
Recently watched that about a week ago. Yeah.
Crazy
I
kid.
really liked that movie. I think it was a mess again.
Yeah,
It was crazy and it had your emotions kind of going all over the place, but I think DiCaprio is really great in that as well.
yeah. I think depend like on the other movies where like it seems like the dramatizing of like emotions and all that isn't really the forefront of what the storytelling of what Scorsese wants to say. I think in Shutter Island, I think that is what he's trying to go after is like the real emotion and like the deep levels of like um how he feels because I can feel the emotions more in Shutter Island than I can feel in any of the other three movies.
I agree. I mean, it was the forefront of everything.
Yeah.
Um, I I think a lot of people dislike the ending, but I personally liked it. I think First off, I think Scorsese has to have everybody die or go to jail. I was telling you about this the other
Yeah.
day. It never works out for anybody at the end. But in Shutter Island, I think the the final theme and the final story was really good about how, you know, DiCaprio's character would kind of rather die um, than live as a monster. Well, I
Mhm.
forgot. I was trying to think of the quote he said. It was like, die a good man or live as a monster. And I think that he chose that way out at the end.
I, yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Shutter Island specifically, but I just remember I came into it not knowing the twist,
Yeah.
or even knowing that a twist existed.
Hmm.
And then also like you walk into it and you think it's like kind of like a horror movie-esque. I'm pretty sure when it first came out, everyone thought that when it seems more like just a thriller.
Yeah, it's more of a thriller for sure.
Yeah. Um, but
I knew there was going to be a twist, but I didn't really know what to expect.
mhm.
So when I got about halfway through the movie, I was kind of like, okay, I think I know where this is going, but still super enjoyable for me. Like it didn't change anything about how I felt about the movie.
Yeah. I think seeing some ratings about it, it's definitely probably one of his lower ranking movies,
Hmm.
it seems like rating wise. Um, which I think that probably just says how people feel about the twist more than anything. Some
Yeah.
that really don't like it probably rate it really low. And they think
Yeah,
it's
I know some people feel that the twist carries it too hard, but I didn't think so. I thought a lot of the themes, played themselves just like in all of these Scorsese movies we've been watching.
mhm. Yeah. And then some other ones that I've personally seen that I'll talk about real quick is Gangs of New York. Another movie that is very like when people are rating it very on the lines of like either people really get it or they really don't, and it's probably not rated that highly. I like it for the most part. If I had to give it a quick rating, I'd probably give it like a 5.55 out of 10. Um, just because I think there are just some low points. It's a very long movie. And then as well as Daniel Day-Lewis is in it, and like he does in every single movie he's in, just steals the show. And like every other character just seems like on like a lower level than him. Um, yeah, it's an interesting thing about New York. Um, I highly recommend just watching it just to see
Yeah,
because it's just a different type of storytelling that he does too for it, in my opinion.
I'll have to check that one out. What about Killers of the Flower Moon? I've had that one on my list for a while, and I need to get there.
Yeah. Um, for that one, definitely get in a comfortable chair because it's a long ass movie. I saw it in theaters. I really liked it. I think it really shows like all of his work coming together into one. Um,
Okay.
um, it's also you can see he really cared about the topic because it's really just going after how like Americans kind of just abused Native Americans. If you don't know anything about the story, it's pretty much about I forget exactly where it's set in place. I'd have to look it up, but pretty much these really rich like Native Americans, and then really greedy like white Americans coming in and trying to just overtake like overtake the Native Americans' power, but in like such a evil way of like getting married to her and then using her family through the marriage, and then like she like Loki just keeps drugging her and all this stuff, and yeah, it's really evil, and it's actually based on a true story, which makes it even more like horrible. Um,
I think it seems like a lot of his movies are oftentimes just telling the story of something that's happened.
yeah, no, yeah. I think it's really interesting. Apple itself has produced some really questionable stuff. Like some of their shows are really good. Killers of Flower Moon is probably their best movie, and then F1 this year is probably like one of their top tier. Most of their other movies usually suck, but yeah, Killers of Flower Moon, I highly recommend just for like seeing how you can see his directing progresses into like what I
Today.
prefer perfecting like his style.
I just looked up that runtime.
Yeah. Yeah. Another long run time is The Irishman. very long movie. I feel like in a way it's like a sequel to Goodfellas, just based off the characters,
Mm.
but then at the same time, like it's a total different story, of course. But
Yeah,
like the way he directs it is a very same way, just like 30 years later.
yeah, that makes sense.
And it just obviously cinematography is a little bit better. But then again, you got like De Niro, Pacino, and Joe Pesci. Like, I don't think you can really go wrong
Hmm.
with the movie when you have those three being
Hmm.
mobsters again. Seems like
Yeah,
a last run for all three of them too, um, being those type of characters.
yeah.
Uh, the dialogue in that movie is really crazy. A lot of people expected it to win Best like Picture in 2020 and like Best Director, but nope. And then the
Yeah,
last one was The Aviator, which that's an interesting film. I think I saw it like 2 years ago, and it's just another outlook on a character that's based on a true story of not really tragic, but just really greedy character, which seems to be like a very uh, going character with him, which is not again played by Leonardo DiCaprio.
yeah,
Seems like DiCaprio just plays a greedy character in every movie except for The Departed. um,
that was like his one nice person role.
yeah, exactly. But overall, um, I think Scorsese, I definitely want to touch on some of his original stuff, like what he kind of like building him up to even be able to make some of the movies that he did in the 2000s. So like Taxi Driver and Raging Bull is all I hear about. Everyone's like, you got to watch that. You got to watch that. Um,
Hmm.
Another movie that I thought was really interesting that I don't even remember in 2016 hearing about it. Then again, I wasn't like super into like very dramatized movies. The Silence, have you heard about that?
I haven't heard about that one. Let me pull it up.
Apparently, it's about like two. Let me get the description. I don't want to mess it up a little bit.
I've got when the world is under attack from the creatures who hunt the human prey by sound. Is this the right? Oh, this is 2019.
Yeah, Silence, Martin. Yeah, the two 17th century Portuguese missionaries, uh, Father Sebastian Rodriguez, played by Andrew Garfield, Father Francisco Garupe, played by Adam Driver, embark on a journey to Japan to find their missing mentor, Liam Neeson. While there, the two men minister of the Christian villagers who worship in secret. If caught by feudal lords or ruling samurai, they must renounce their faith or face a prolonged and agonizing death.
Dude, I have heard about this. I did not know this was Scorsese. That's crazy.
Yeah, it
That
looks, it
that
looks,
looks interesting.
yeah, it looks very like deep because he also did um, like a religious film in the 90s with William Dafoe playing Jesus Christ,
Okay.
which apparently like this was like one of his most proud works is Silence.
Hmm.
'Cause he's like really always like wanted to do a movie about faith and like what faith means to people and how deep you'll go to like and then Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver, like those are like
Yeah.
two two crazy good actors too.
Yeah. I'll have to check that one out. I've been wanting to watch it. I just had no idea that was Scorsese, actually.
Yeah. Um, and then The Color of Money, which is also an interesting one looking back at it with Paul Newman. And then Tom Cruise before, like right when he was getting big, right before Top Gun, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So that would also be an interesting one to watch. That one's just a very, I think, a simple movie. It's about just two billiards players, so two pool players that one of them's like retired, but wants to get back into the game with a young guy. But yeah, you got anything
Yeah.
to
I
wrap
got
it up with?
some I got some movies to watch. That's all I
Yeah,
gotta say.
yeah, yeah. I think we wanted to start off the first episode with him mainly because we both felt like we didn't watch enough of his stuff in the past.
Yeah,
We still got stuff to watch for him, so I wouldn't be surprised in the future we'd come back around to it. Um,
definitely.
but
The
he's definitely one of
Scorsese
the
follow-up
goats. Yeah, he's definitely
for
one of the
sure.
goats, and yeah, I could just see why everyone talks so highly of him.
Yeah, I gotta get into some different ones of these because I feel like the two movies we picked for each other were pretty perfect. I mean, both mob movies,
Yeah.
kind of about the shortcomings of the mob and how that all works. But I definitely want to branch out into some of his different type styles of movies, just to see, you know, his versatility more or less.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're listening to this podcast, thank you for listening. And we're probably going to be trying to release it every week. We haven't really decided on days or anything, but the main topics is just start off with like a director and then get into it. And then I think the next one will be an actor. And then after that, more like a topic or a category of type of movies. But yep. Thank you.
Thank you.